I come on the scene in the early 90s, late 1989, 90, at a big newspaper some people might have seen called The Weekly Topic. It was big in name but very small in business terms. So eventually it folded in 1994. But when you've worked in a very small place, you do all the heavy lifting. You are a reporter, a sub-editor, an editor, you are in the printing, you are in everything. At the time when we were working in that situation, a few of us, we thought that we were suffering a lot. Going home in the morning while other people were going to work because you worked the whole night and the whole day. Then the paper collapsed, and at first we thought that we had failed. But in that process of suffering so much, we had gathered so much that immediately you had this, the East African was being opened, early 95. And I was immediately called upon to join the East African. Said, oh, so there is something, some people, the people of the East African are coming from Nairobi, Nation Group. But they've done their research and they say that, oh, okay, there are people who are doing a bit of serious work there. So what did that mean? We were not very well known. I wasn't well known. But then there are some journalists who are very well known, but they did their research and they knew, okay, these ones, they have a lot of support. So they may be famous, but they are not as good as these ones who are not known, but they have been doing each and everything. So we started the East African, where I automatically did a little bit better than average. But I thought I had arrived at the East African because I had left the university, gone and done a bit of work at the collapsing company. Then you've gone without salary for 6 months. And then these Nation guys tell you, okay, no. So you have recruited you. Which car do you want to drive? Go and pick it and it will be paid over 5 years. Quickly managed to build our first house. I thought, what else do I want? But then there was a newspaper called The Monitor, which had been started and was eating into New Vision's territory. So New Vision is shopping for me to go and take over their weekend, the highest selling paper, the Sunday Vision. And 1997, you are earning 800,000 shillings. I thought I was on top of the world. It was big money. But then New Vision comes and says, come, 2 million. What's that? But I have just taken a car loan, 7 million. Those who remember those figures of that time. They said 7 million, punitive departure fees, 1 month's salary, in lieu of notice to your employer, the car loan. Vision just gave me the check. So I went and arrogantly tossed the check at the Nation guys. I'm now the one paying them and the takeoff. So anyway, but reaching there, I thought I was going to the promised land. Now, there is what you call when you have burnt your bridges. You've thrown a job at those guys. Then we reach the Sunday Vision, and then they tell me the real picture. They show me the figures. The Monitor had overtaken the Vision much earlier. They had beaten them into second place and said, now, revive that thing. I've already burnt my bridges with the Nation Group, and now I'm given mission impossible. So, I need to describe to you what the media was like those days. You see, when Uganda, as some people tell us, that life started in 1986. By then, you would take anything that is on the market. You didn't have much of a choice. So you had these newspapers which were all gray. By the way, they were black and white. There was nothing like color, which we take for granted. There was nothing like design. It was just very long articles written by people you may have heard of, Chango Macho. They are talking about postulating the hypothesis of the new dispensation and the propensities, and eventually people got tired of those things. And the press was suffering. Now, okay, even now, 20 years later, I don't think I'm at liberty to disclose the figures. But the figures for this new vision were so much down, and the monitor had really clouded away all the market. So what do? The people are tired of the products, they don't want them, and politics. So the bridges were burnt, had to think very quickly, and first of all I said, okay, the products are unpleasant, people have a choice, they are no longer, you can't hear about the president and the ministers and the MPs every day, which was always the news. So the first thing was to, first of all, to make the products pleasant. And one thing we need to look at is that you must make your, where you don't have expertise, you have to look for the experts. So the first thing we had to do was I decided to do is to look for an external designer. And there wasn't enough expertise at that time, 1997. So I tell the boss, the MD William Pike, that let's go and you shop in England anyway. Britain is the best at this thing. Said, but now this one day in a week, how do we afford to bring the experts? So, okay, he will come, but to justify the expenditure, he will have to do the entire week. Fine. But whatever starts at the Sunday, then it will be spread out to the other days. So that was the first victory. I managed to bring in an external designer to redesign. These days, every time you hear of people redesigning, but that's when we first pushed the idea of redesigning. Then nobody had the capacity to do full-time color production. So what the public may not know is that, did not know that the new vision started doing color work, but we were going actually to NASA Road. You rush to NASA Road and take the pictures there at a company called Reprographics of John Kato. Some of you may know him. Run back with the staff and between industrial area and the NASA Nkrumah Road. So that battle we put aside. Now we have gone color. But the content, people don't just want to see yellow, green, and blue. And I like to analyze what is the problem of the content. The things that people were tired, so people wanted a bit of things which concern them, what you may call human interest. So how do you get people from consuming this politics, which they don't want to consume anyway? So some of the first products I had to think about were, we created products like how they met. Today it looks simple. People always talk about relationships. But talking about relationships in the mid-90s was another thing. So I had to get the big boys, these ones who brought liberation and what have you, and say, let us show their human side. Who was my first choice? A man called the late James Wapakabulo, and how he met his wife Angelina. Why Wapakabulo? Wapakabulo had a certain roommate in Nairobi, in Dar es Salaam, called Museveni. So if you are really going to talk about a certain person's dating life, his roommate must have been in the picture all the time. Okay? So the story came, it was not easy to put together. Wapakabulo was my friend because he was a fan of Afrigo and so was I. He just told me the entire stories and brought all the pictures, dumped them there. The role which his roommate played, and those, by then the big names and so on and so forth. Then of course we had to get Angelina's side. Angelina she came and decided to kill the whole project because of the roommate of James. And there are so many pictures, all the pictures which were not flattering. So we fought, I had fought several battles with Angelina to get those photos from her, but eventually the story came out. And the landscape of the media was changing now. People took notice again. Whom do you follow up that with? I followed that up with a lady called Cecilia Ogwal. Maybe everybody has heard of Cecilia Ogwal. Those days she was the only man in politics. Eh? So, Cecilia Ogwal, so first of all now, I was talking about to her as a team. A team is her maiden name. Cecilia team had been a beauty queen. The Miss Uganda something. Eh? She had the pictures and so on. And of course she was the person the government really hated most at the time. She was this die-hardest UPC woman. Now, the first real jewel and crown I wore was when the story came out, and the most, bitterest critic of the opposition was John Nagenda. But even him he acknowledged and said, yeah, so Cecilia was such a beauty. Yes. We continued with the search until people now started approaching us, and that was running out. But then you have to, what is useful to the people? Ugandans, for example, cannot read big books. So we had to come and I chose also to start serializing books to make it easier for them. Books of relevance. I got, by then, I'm sure everybody has heard about Che Guevara. Che Guevara's remains has just been reburied, and his memoirs came out. Now, relating him to Uganda, Che Guevara, people didn't know that he had been fighting in Congo, passing through Uganda. Some people he mentioned in his memoirs were still around. At that time, also, Princess Diana dies. And the people who deal with Nagenda became in handy. A man called Andrew Morton, who was profiling such big people, was his friend. So before you could get, he called him and the guy says, you go publish. I will talk to the publishers. By then, I think in the whole company of 1,000 people, there was one credit card belonging to William Pike. So it was very easy for me to use Pike's card to buy the big books and also pay for the rights to serialize. Now, some people who are younger may not know what this whole phenomenon of Diana, Princess of Wales. I don't think there's been a personality like that. So here we were now. My little paper was a story on Diana's life, and so on and so forth. King Leopold of Congo. Uganda had gone to intervene and so on in Congo. You bring the real authoritative publications on the Congo, how it was exploited. So what we are saying is that we are humanizing. I was humanizing the content and brought back interest. But that aside, much as the content was now already, by that time, checking the sales figures, I had overtaken and even doubled the monitor within 1 year. How? By humanizing the content. People thought it was over. We are fed up with these newspapers which are so boring. But I think it was when you look at before that, how, for example, adverts looked like. What was a typical advertisement? Maybe on Uganda television, on black and white. You would see an advert would come up, a picture of a hardware shop, and there's this very commanding job. We sell angle bars, nails, cement. Find us on Luong Street, plot 13. Trespassers will be arrested. That is how they were calling customers those days. So with that kind of media, I mean, who would be attracted to advertise? I'm talking about this because advertising is the source of revenue for media. So you had to make the products more appealing to attract the advertisers, and then the advertisers the money is there, and then the industry can continue. But there is heavy lifting. It's not just getting ideas and funky ideas then. There is heavy lifting. Many of you are in management. You know this saying that, what is that? What they call overnight success comes after 10 years of sweat. Someone has been working underground for 10 years, and then You get to know him today and tomorrow he's a big name, and then you say that what? He's an overnight success. Overnight success comes after 10 years of work. So we did the heavy lifting. I give you an example. The news was changing fast. But people knew that, okay, these are newspapers, you print, and then you wait and take it to sell the next morning. So one day, the president reshuffles the army. He drops the longest serving army commander, Mugisha Muntu, and appoints J.J. Odong from the opposite side of the country. It was around 8 o'clock, the news comes. So I go to these guys already printing in the printing press. It was on Saturday. I tell them, okay, stop that machine. The news has changed. It had never happened. They say, look, who is this new chap? What is he telling us? How do you stop that machine? So for the first time, I shouted. But I think I shouted because the machine was roaring very fast. But they hadn't seen me shouting. And I told them, stop the bloody machine. Of course, they thought I couldn't stop it. So they called the Mzungu, William Pike. He told them, if the editor says stop the machine, you stop the machine. Now, the crisis had come up. It had never happened. The circulation manager, a lady called Margaret somebody, she came and said, well, people, things have changed. Things had changed for the vision. So we are going to do whatever you want, but we are printing another paper. We can't wait. Even though we are not radio, we can't wait for another day to announce what happened so long ago. So then what follows? While the lady circulation manager supported me, she had seen an opportunity. We go to the circulation meeting, management, and they say, okay, guess what? Coming weekend, you are also going to produce one edition, Saturday, and another edition, morning. So that's how what you now take, you are used to, the evening editions. That's how it starts. When I said we are not going to publish news which is old, so that's how we start. But now that is what the heavy lifting I'm talking about. Or the social life had to go out of the window because you are producing 2 newspapers in one day. But it paid off. We started off with a few thousand copies. Within a couple of months, we're doing 10,000 copies. An 8th day in a 7-day week. That's how we did it. But of course, for some of us, for me who was in it there, it was real heavy lifting. You can't just back brilliant ideas with. You have to be ready to sweat a bit. So life continues like that, but maybe one thing I need to mention is that where do these brilliant ideas come from? From the teams. One thing happened. We had when I joined the Vision, there were these young people from the university, they enjoy their life. So the older editors, they really didn't like them a little bit. Then me, I wanted staff. They said, no, there's no budget for new staff. So I said, okay, these people whom you think, by the way, we are talking of names like Lilian Barenzi, Simon Kaheru, they are now still young people. I said, okay, these people you don't want, whom you think they are too happy, and you want sad people, and angry people, and frustrated people, give them to me. So those were the creative team. In other words, when you have you can give the way forward. Almost anybody can do anything. The people who are considered like bad because they are happy, maybe they come from upper to middle to upper class families. For us, we are used to frustrated guys. They came and I told them, let's do this thing freestyle, and it worked. So, and that's how the media became more friendly to people, more health, more social. And others now, of course, they have gone ahead and worsened it, and you have had the red papers and so on. But if God is about to punish me for making media like that, we plead that those people, like Karl Marx said that, well, he was very annoyed with the Marxists for pushing his ideas in the wrong way. And he denied being a Marxist himself, you know. Karl Marx said he's never been a Marxist. So even me, whichever direction the media has gone, I did it to rescue the media and it worked, but maybe some people made it a little bit faster. Yes, and finally, if we made politics and so on by making it human-centered, next time when we meet, I will tell you about how we made agriculture. Today, when you see there's more farming taking place on the newspaper pages and than on the farm itself. Yes, again, that's another idea which the media has overdone.